Rushed millionaire CEO gets stuck in traffic, then a single mom on a bike stops. The dashcam captured it all. A luxury sedan trapped in gridlocked traffic, its driver pounding the steering wheel in frustration as sirens wailed in the distance. Then, unexpectedly, a woman on a bicycle weaving between the stalled cars, stopping at his window with an offer that would change both their lives forever. What the camera couldn't record was the moment when Emma Chen, a single mother and ER nurse rushing to her hospital shift, recognized the pale, sweating man behind the wheel as tech billionaire James Barrett. Or how her split-second decision to help a stranger having a heart attack would uncover a decades-old connection between them that had been buried by lies, money, and power. As the ambulance finally arrived, neither could have imagined how this chance encounter in standstill traffic would heal wounds they didn't even know they shared, reminding us all that sometimes the most important journeys happen when we're forced to stop moving. If you're already feeling the pull of this unexpected connection between two strangers from different worlds, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more stories that remind us how life's most meaningful moments often come when our carefully laid plans fall apart, and how sometimes being stuck is exactly where we need to be. James Barrett was running late, and in his world, time was quite literally money. At 42, the founder and CEO of Barrett Technologies had built an empire on efficiency. His company's revolutionary supply chain management software had transformed global logistics, earning him a fortune estimated at $2.8 billion and a reputation as a brilliant, if ruthless, businessman. His schedule was planned down to the minute, his life a carefully orchestrated symphony of meetings, calls, and strategic decisions. Which was why being stuck in gridlocked traffic on the 405 freeway was nothing short of catastrophic. "What's the holdup?" he barked into his car's Bluetooth system, connecting to his executive assistant. "Multi-car accident about a mile ahead," Melissa replied, her voice calm despite her boss's obvious irritation. "Emergency services are on scene, but traffic reports say it could be at least an hour before things start moving again." James slammed his palm against the steering wheel of his Bentley. "An hour? That's not acceptable. The board meeting starts in 40 minutes, and I need to present the quarterly projections." "I've already informed the board of the situation," Melissa assured him. "They're willing to delay by 30 minutes, but several members have hard stops at noon for other commitments." James loosened his tie, suddenly feeling uncomfortably warm despite the car's perfect climate control. "Fine. Send the presentation to Marcus. He can start without me, and I'll join as soon as I can." "Already done. Are you all right, James? You sound off." "I'm fine," he snapped, though the pressure building in his chest suggested otherwise. "Just frustrated. I'll call when I'm moving again." He ended the call and leaned back against the leather headrest, trying to regulate his breathing. The discomfort had started that morning, a dull ache that he'd attributed to indigestion from last night's business dinner. But now it was intensifying, radiating down his left arm in a way that even James, with his limited medical knowledge, recognized as potentially serious. Not now, he thought, reaching for the bottle of antacids he kept in the console. Not today. The cars around him hadn't moved in 15 minutes. Through his windshield, James could see drivers ahead stepping out of their vehicles, stretching their legs and chatting with fellow stranded commuters. Some were on their phones, likely calling to explain their tardiness, just as he had done. The pressure in his chest tightened another notch. James loosened his tie further, then removed it entirely. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the car's cool interior. He reached for his water bottle with a hand that had begun to tremble slightly. "This isn't indigestion," a small voice in his head warned. "This is something worse." He should call for help, he knew. But some combination of stubbornness, denial, and the lifelong habit of handling problems himself kept his phone in his pocket. It would pass. It had to. He had a company to run, a board to appease, and competitors who would pounce at the first sign of weakness. A tap on his window startled him from these thoughts. James turned to see a woman on a bicycle peering in at him, her expression concerned. He lowered the window a few inches, ready to dismiss whatever she was selling or whatever cause she was promoting. "Are you okay?" she asked, her direct gaze assessing him with professional intensity. You look like you're in pain. James was about to deliver his standard brush-off when another wave of pressure squeezed his chest, this one strong enough to make him gasp. The woman's eyes narrowed. I'm fine, he managed, the words tight. Just stuck in traffic when I should be in a meeting. I'm a nurse, she said, ignoring his dismissal. And you're showing classic signs of a cardiac event. Pale, sweating, clutching your chest. How's your left arm feeling? The accuracy of her observation caught him off guard. There's some discomfort. Without waiting for permission, she propped her bicycle against his car and tried the passenger door, which was unlocked. Sliding into the seat beside him, she reached for his wrist, her fingers finding his pulse with practiced efficiency. I'm Emma Chin, she said, her tone now all business. I work in the ER at Mercy General. Your pulse is rapid and irregular. How long have you been feeling this way? It started this morning, James admitted, suddenly too exhausted to maintain his facade. But it's gotten worse in the last 20 minutes. Emma nodded, already pulling a small kit from her backpack. I'm going to take your blood pressure, and then I think we should call an ambulance. No ambulance, James said immediately. I have a meeting. I just need. With all due respect, Emma interrupted, wrapping the blood pressure cuff around his arm. Your meeting won't matter much if you're dead. And what you're experiencing is very likely a heart attack. The bluntness of her assessment silenced him. James watched as she efficiently took his blood pressure, her expression growing more concerned as she read the numbers. 180/110, she murmured. Definitely not good. She looked up at him. I'm calling an ambulance. This isn't optional anymore. As she pulled out her phone, James was struck by her appearance for the first time. She was perhaps in her mid-30s, with dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She wore scrubs under a light jacket, clearly on her way to work. Despite the urgency of the situation, there was a calmness to her movements that he found oddly reassuring. What's your name? She asked as she dialed. James Barrett. If she recognized his name, and most people in the business world did, she gave no indication. Okay, James. I'm going to give you an aspirin from my kit. It helps thin the blood. While Emma spoke to the emergency dispatcher, providing their location and his symptoms with precise medical terminology, James found himself studying her more closely. There was something vaguely familiar about her, though he couldn't place it. Perhaps she had attended one of his company's events, or maybe she resembled someone he knew. They're dispatching an ambulance, Emma reported after ending the call. But with this traffic, it might take them a while to reach us. How are you feeling now? Like an idiot, James admitted. I should have recognized the symptoms. A small smile softened her professional demeanor. Most heart attack victims don't immediately recognize what's happening. Denial is a powerful thing. I'm not usually in denial about reality, James said, then winced as another wave of pain hit him. Emma noticed immediately. Try to stay calm and breathe slowly. The aspirin should be helping, but we need to keep your stress levels down. She glanced at his expensive suit, the luxury car interior. I'm guessing you're not someone who slows down often. Despite his discomfort, James found himself chuckling. You could say that. Barrett Technologies doesn't run itself. This time, there was a flicker of recognition in her eyes. You're that James Barrett? The tech CEO. Guilty as charged. Emma's expression remained neutral, though something unreadable passed behind her eyes. Well, Mr. Barrett, today your body is forcing you to take a break, whether your schedule allows for it or not. There was no judgment in her tone, just a matter-of-fact assessment that James found refreshingly direct. Most people in his orbit tended to tiptoe around him, careful not to offend the billionaire who signed their paychecks. You said you work at Mercy General? He asked, partly to distract himself from the pain and partly out of genuine curiosity about this woman who had appeared like some guardian angel in the middle of gridlocked traffic. Emma nodded. Emergency department. I was on my way to start my shift when I saw you. I always bike to work, faster than driving in LA traffic, as you can see. Won't you be late now? I already called in. They'll manage until I get there. She checked his pulse again. Besides, this is my job too, helping people who need medical attention. In the distance, they could hear sirens, though it was impossible to tell how close they were given the traffic situation. Emma continued to monitor his vital signs, her presence oddly comforting despite the circumstances. "Do you have family we should call?" she asked. "Someone who should meet you at the hospital?" The question hit James with unexpected force. Family. His parents were both gone, his father from a heart attack not unlike what he was experiencing now, his mother from cancer 3 years later. He had no siblings, no wife, no children. The closest thing he had to family was Melissa, his executive assistant of 8 years, who already knew more about his life than anyone else. "Just my assistant," he said finally. "She can handle the necessary notifications." Something like sympathy flickered across Emma's face, quickly replaced by professional detachment. "I'll need your phone to call her, then. The paramedics will want to know about any medications you're taking and your medical history." As James unlocked his phone and handed it to her, another wave of pain crashed through his chest, this one more intense than before. He gasped, clutching at his shirt. "James? Stay with me." Emma's voice seemed to come from far away. "The ambulance is almost here. Just hold on." The world began to gray around the edges. James was vaguely aware of Emma moving quickly, reclining his seat and loosening his collar. He felt her fingers at his neck, checking his pulse again, heard her voice speaking urgently into his phone, presumably to Melissa. Then darkness claimed him. The steady beeping of a heart monitor was the first thing James became aware of as consciousness returned. The second was the antiseptic smell that could only belong to a hospital. He opened his eyes slowly, blinking against the fluorescent lighting. "Welcome back," a familiar voice said from beside him. James turned his head to see Emma Chin sitting in a chair near his bed, still in her scrubs, but without the jacket she'd worn earlier. She looked tired but relieved. "What happened?" His voice came out raspy and weak. "You had a heart attack," Emma confirmed. "A significant one. You lost consciousness just as the paramedics arrived. They had to perform CPR briefly before getting your heart rhythm stabilized." James tried to process this information. "How long have I been here?" "About 6 hours. They took you straight to the cath lab when you arrived and placed a stent in one of your coronary arteries. There was a 90% blockage. 6 hours." The board meeting was long over. The quarterly projections, the strategic initiatives he'd planned to present, all of it had proceeded without him. Strangely, James found he didn't care as much as he would have expected. Nearly dying had a way of shifting priorities. "You stayed," he observed, looking at Emma with new curiosity. She nodded. "I came in the ambulance with you, and then my shift started. I'm actually on my break right now. Thought I'd check on my roadside patient." "Thank you," James said, the words inadequate for what she had done. "If you hadn't stopped, someone else would have," Emma said with a shrug, though they both knew that wasn't necessarily true. In a city like Los Angeles, people minded their own business more often than not. "The important thing is that you're stable now. They'll keep you for a few days for observation and to start you on medication." James nodded, then noticed a vase of flowers on the bedside table that hadn't been there a moment ago. Following his gaze, Emma smiled. "From your assistant, Melissa. She's been here most of the day but stepped out to take a call about 20 minutes ago. She seems very efficient." "She is," James agreed. "The best assistant I've ever had." "She's also the only person who came," Emma observed, her tone neutral but her eyes assessing. "No family? Friends?" The question stung more than James wanted to admit. "I don't have much family. And friends, well, when you reach a certain level of success, it becomes difficult to know who your real friends are." Emma nodded thoughtfully. "That sounds lonely." The simple observation, delivered without pity or judgment, hit James with unexpected force. It was lonely at the top. He had built an empire, amassed a fortune, and achieved everything he had set out to accomplish after his parents died, but somewhere along the way, he had isolated himself from genuine human connection. "What about you?" he asked, deflecting from his own situation. "You mentioned biking to work. Do you live near the hospital?" "About 4 miles away," Emma replied. "In Westwood. It's a small apartment, but the school district is good for my daughter." "You have a child?" Emma's face softened. Lily. She's 8. The light of my life, even when she's driving me crazy. She pulled out her phone and showed him a photo of a smiling girl with her mother's dark hair and almond-shaped eyes. She's beautiful, James said sincerely. Her father must be proud. A shadow crossed Emma's face. Her father isn't in the picture. It's just the two of us. Before James could respond, the door opened and Melissa entered, her professional demeanor cracking slightly when she saw he was awake. James, thank goodness, she said, approaching the bed. How are you feeling? Like I've been hit by a truck, he admitted. But alive, thanks to Miss Chin here. Melissa turned to Emma with genuine gratitude. We can't thank you enough. If you hadn't stopped to help him. Just doing my job, Emma said, rising from her chair. Speaking of which, my break is over. I should get back to the ER. Wait, James said, reaching out instinctively before remembering the 4 in his arm. Will you come back? Tomorrow, maybe? Emma looked surprised by the request. I'm working a double shift, so I'll be here until morning anyway. I can stop by before I leave, if you'd like. I would, James said, surprising himself with how much he meant it. After Emma had gone, Melissa updated him on the business matters he had missed. The board meeting had gone well, with Marcus stepping in admirably to present the projections. The company's stock had dipped slightly when news of his hospitalization broke, but had stabilized by closing. Everything was under control. The doctors say you'll need to take at least 2 weeks off, Melissa informed him. Preferably a month. I've already started rearranging your schedule. Under normal circumstances, James would have argued, insisted on returning to work as soon as possible. But the day's events had shaken him more deeply than he wanted to admit. 2 weeks, he conceded. But I'll need my laptop brought in tomorrow. And set up secure video conferencing for any essential meetings. Melissa nodded, making notes on her tablet. Dr. Reynolds, your cardiologist, also mentioned that you'll need to make some lifestyle changes. Less stress, better diet, regular exercise. Easier said than done, James muttered. Actually, Melissa said, her tone shifting slightly, I took the liberty of researching some options. There's a cardiac rehabilitation program here at Mercy that has excellent outcomes. And I found a meal delivery service that specializes in heart-healthy options. James looked at his assistant with new appreciation. Always 3 steps ahead, aren't you? It's my job, she replied with a small smile. And speaking of jobs, I should mention that Ms. Chin refused the thank you gift you authorized. This caught James by surprise. She refused? It was a substantial amount. She said she was just doing what anyone would do, and that she doesn't accept gifts for performing her duties as a nurse and a human being. Melissa's tone suggested she found this response both admirable and slightly baffling. She did say that if you really wanted to show gratitude, you could donate to the hospital's children's wing. James found himself smiling, despite the pain medication making him drowsy. Emma Chin was proving to be more interesting by the minute. Make it happen, he instructed Melissa. A significant donation. And find out what else the hospital needs. As he drifted toward sleep, James found himself thinking about Emma's words. That sounds lonely.